What's up, guys? It's Justin Henry with J Hen Fantasy. And if you're looking for more insight and information than I have here on this YouTube page, make sure y'all head over to jhenfantasy.com. Check out my weekly note sheet, rankings, articles, bets, and a whole lot more. I promise y'all, if you're trying to win your league, that's the spot to be. Make sure y'all sub to the page while you're here, too. We're going to Brazil. We are going to Brazil for this matchup. KC at LA, but this is a neutral site. This game will be played in Brazil on Friday night. And obviously the point total here sitting at 45.5 will let you know should be decent amount of scoring. But both of these defenses, even last year, were better than advertised. And when we go to, Patrick Mahomes, obviously one of the big things for him last year was like being able to get those deep shots. It hasn't happened really since Tyreek's been gone. We've seen a little bit of a different Patrick Mahomes. And obviously, like the weapons weren't there last year. Rashee Rice dealing with an injury. Hollywood Brown was dealing with an injury. The run game, Isaiah Pacheco missed time after getting hurt early in the year. So there's a lot of injuries to this team. Just in general, they were scrapping for receivers, had to trade for DeAndre Hopkins. So I think Pat Mahomes is due for a rebound. He's coming into the season pretty much full slate. Obviously, Rashee Rice is going to be out for the first 6 games of the year due to a suspension. But Patrick Mahomes should still be taking chances downfield a lot more than we've seen in the past. And I trust him as an elite quarterback this week. So he should still be a high-end to mid-tier QB1 for this week, even in a matchup against this Chargers defense. As far as Xavier Worthy, Rashee Rice, Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice obviously dealing with the suspension, so he will not be available. Make sure he is in your IR spot if you can. If not, he's shown on your bench. But Xavier Worthy ready to take that year 2 leap that a lot of receivers take. And, you could kind of sense it towards the end of last year. And in this matchup against the Chargers, like this team's going to need to put up points. I feel like this is going to be one of those games where we see the Chargers put up points. KC is going to have to do the same thing. Even though this is a tight division game, both teams know each other very well. Both quarterbacks have dealt with each other in the past as well. This is going to be a matchup of who can win in the passing game, my opinion. So I think Xavier Worthy is going to have to show that, and they're going to have to get creative with the way they use him, like they did last year in the ground game. They use him on reverses. They'll take shots with them. So curious to see his deployment. And then Hollywood Brown expected to be available for this game. Now, is there another receiver that can provide fantasy value on this team? We have Juju Smith-Schuster. We have Tyquan Thornton. You have Jalen Royal. So while Rashee Rice is out, it wouldn't be surprising to see another receiver take some kind of leap in this offense. I'm not sure who it'll be. Tyquan Thornton's kind of a dart throw. Juju's been there for a while, knows the system. Jalen Royal's a rookie. Not sure I fully trust him yet. So I want to see who it is out of Thornton and Juju. My guess is that Juju probably gets first crack at like normal reps. I think we see some deep shots to Tyquan Thornton using his speed at some point. So that's how I feel about the KC receiving core. It's really Worthy and maybe a little bit of Hollywood Brown. But I do kind of want to see who that wide receiver 3 is, because I think we might be talking about one of them as a pickup after week 1. Unfortunately, I'm not sure it has sticking power, but y'all know how the fantasy world works. And as far as the ground game goes, Isaiah Pacheco, very safe RB2 going up against this Chargers defense, which was top 5 against running backs last year. So for me, Pacheco, obviously coming off the injury last season, wasn't as good. They're saying he looks back full strength. Hopefully we see him involved in the passing game, because I feel like that would help out his value. So very curious to see what that looks like for Isaiah Pacheco's value moving forward. And as far as the tight end spot goes, obviously this could be the last year for Travis Kelce. And if it is the last year for Travis Kelce, we could see him go out with the bang. So he knows his Charger team very well, has played well against them in the past. And obviously, in primetime situations, we know Travis Kelce steps up to the plate. So seems like a good spot here to get him going, get him on the board touchdown-wise, get his season started faster than it was last year. He struggled out the gate last year. And there was a little bit of the changing of the guard. Like we're starting to see Noah Gray get a lot more involved here in this offense. So while the matchup doesn't scream plus matchup, obviously Derwin James there in the secondary, it doesn't scream plus matchup. I do think that there's opportunity for Travis Kelce, potentially even Noah Gray, to get on the board some form or fashion here if this thing does hit the red zone a few times, like KC typically does. So for me, I like Kelce as kind of a touchdown or bust mid-tier tight end. I do think without Rashee Rice, they got to get him a few more looks as well. And then we go to the Chargers side of the ball, and Justin Herbert. Going to start the season off without starting left tackle Rashawn Slater. They moved Joe Alt back to his college position, which was left tackle. So the protection should still be there. But Herbert, we saw an uptick in his passing towards the second half of last year. Once J.K. was banged up, once Gus Edwards was out, we did see Justin Herbert start to play at a higher level passing-wise. But the team did bring in some running backs. So I'm a little pessimistic about Justin Herbert initially coming in. I do think he'll use his legs, which should help his fantasy value. He finishes the top 12 quarterback last year. But I also want to see in this matchup against this KC defense, is he using his arms? Are they using this ground game that they've heavily invested to over this offseason? So for me, Herbert's kind of that high-end to mid-tier QB2 for me this week. Even though the matchup says it should be a decent matchup for him, I kind of want to see how things play out for him before I start ranking him in the QB1s. He's more of a high-end QB2, mid-tier QB2 for me this week. And as far as the receivers go, obviously Ladd McConkey was the star of the show last year. Ladd McConkey should continue to be a good value here, high-end wide receiver 2-ish. Now, will the deep plays be there against this KC defense? You might see a little bit of Trent McDuffie. I don't know. This is going to be a tough matchup for Ladd. I want to see how they deploy him. Are they going to use him across the field, or is he going to kind of be stuck into the slot? You also have Quentin Johnston, who was dealing with the concussion this preseason. He should be back. You have Keenan Allen. The team brought him in. Trey Harris in the second round. So some of that reliability that they needed out of Ladd McConkey last year, Joshua Palmer was banged up at times. They were looking for a consistent option with Quentin Johnston being inconsistent. Like, Ladd has more competition when it comes to like targets now. So that's my one concern with him, is that I think he's being drafted as a top 12 guy. You're starting Ladd McConkey. I just don't know if like DFS or if you're expecting a huge ceiling game, it would take a deep play in order for that to happen. It could happen. This has potential for fireworks. I'm just not sure it does happen. And then Keenan Allen will probably be a safety valve. Probably doesn't provide a whole lot of ceiling unless he catches a touchdown. Should be somewhere between 4 to 6 catches as normal. Remember, when he was with the Chargers before, he was actually a top 8 receiver. So it's easy to forget and write off what Keenan Allen was. And even with the Bears last year, he was a consistent red zone threat for Caleb Williams. I like Keenan Allen. I just don't know that he's going to take on a significant role with this team. And then as far as downfield threats, I think I like Quentin Johnston more than most people do. Most people think he's a bust or that he's a body catcher, so he's not good. I think he's a good downfield threat and a consistent threat for this team in the red zone. So while I don't recommend starting him, if you were able to snag him in your drafts, I'd be watching to see how this thing plays out. Is he starting? Is he playing enough snaps? That's what I'm watching with Quentin Johnston. I'm keeping him on benches for now, not putting him in lineups. With Keenan Allen, I do think he has some low flex appeal, especially if he's able to catch a touchdown and still get those 5 catches for 50 yards. We're talking about a 15 to 16 point type player if he can get the touchdown. So I'm okay with Keenan Allen in as your flex if you're desperate. For now, I'd rather have him on the bench just to see what his role is. And then as far as Omarion Hampton, obviously – first round pick. A lot of people love him. Big bruising type back, but also has a lot of speed, athletic. So I'm curious to see what he looks like, right? Obviously in the preseason, there was the play that everybody kind of remembers where he stutter stepped and went to the outside instead of kind of putting his head down forward. And I think that's one thing that Najee Harris does really well. So when I think about Omarion Hampton, he's probably going to look like a rookie at times. There's probably going to be times where we see the superstar that he's going to potentially be at times. It's just against this KC defense with Chris Jones, they were stout against running backs last year. So I'd err on the side of caution. I know if you drafted Omarion Hampton, you probably have him as your RB2. Go ahead and start him. Just temper your expectations ceiling-wise. This could be a game where we see Omarion Hampton kind of struggle to get things going, or maybe we see a pop play. Maybe he surprises us all. So I think there's a lot here with the rookie. We got to see what he looks like. But there is potential here. I just say he's kind of more of a boom or bust RB2 in my opinion, unless they feature him a little bit more in the passing game, which, Greg Roman's system, you're not really seeing a whole lot of pass catching with the running backs. A lot of it's downhill stuff. For me, I want to see how they use Omarion Hampton before I start to recommend him in the top 15 running backs. To me, he's more like top 20, 25-ish running backs before I say one thing or another about his value as a top 15, 12 running back where you drafted him. And then as far as Najee Harris, he was dealing with the eye injury based on the firework incident that happened. They said it was a surface level thing. That's what he said. So it remains to be seen how much this affects him, but he's expected to be on the field Friday night. So I like Najee Harris as kind of a flex play, a low ceiling flex play. He would need to get into the end zone, obviously. But if you were desperate at RB2 or you faded the position, I think this is an okay play there. You're talking about a guy that's probably going to go for 40 to 60 yards, maybe have potential at a score and a couple catches. So I wouldn't expect like a 100-yard game or, anything too crazy. But I do think if Najee plays the role of like hitting the hole and what John Harbaugh likes to do a little bit better, this might be a little bit more of a 50-50 split than most think. So we'll see. Obviously, this is a great time to figure this out. Game 1. What does Najee Harris look like? What's his role? For now, we put Hampton atop of this food chain. He's the RB2. Right now, Najee is more of a flex play for our teams. Desperation RB2 if you really need it. So I would say lower ceiling RB2. I think you can wait on Najee to see what he looks like. Put it that way. As far as the tight ends go, Will Dissly's the starter right now. They signed Tyler Conklin. You have Arondé Gatson, who the team likes. I would kind of stay away, even though it's a plus matchup for tight ends, in case he struggled a little bit against the tight ends. One of them could do damage. If I had to put my pick on it, I think they brought Tyler Conklin in to give them a little bit more versatility in games like this. I would wait completely on this Charger tight end room. Wouldn't shock me, though, if one of these tight ends plays better than we think. Dissly was playing well at times last year. Wouldn't shock me to see somebody actually start to play well out of this tight end room. I'm just not banking on it, especially not this game.